Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more. Just more Faceit League action. We appreciate y'all joining us this fine afternoon, evening, wherever you may be within the world right now. Hey, and we got a fantastic merch for you on top of that. Shikigami taking on the undefeated Dreamland, one of only two undefeated teams left in North American Faceit, alongside Nightmare, who I believe don't even have a match of their own tonight, have a couple more days until that becomes the case, but Dreamland should have a test in front of them here. Shikigami, in their own right, 6-3, has got some really quality wins, and forget to mention, this is the Midoriya squad that we've seen over the past couple of years that has always been performing at that top level.
Yeah, the majority of members who are on Shikigami in the past have left for other teams. I think some are still around, but this is the Midoriya team, like you said, that we saw make really good runs in the regular season and really good runs in the postseason as well. But so far this season, 6-3, not the worst record, but especially for this roster, you would think it would be a little bit better. But considering who they lost to, it's not that big of a shock to see them be 6-3. But on the other side, Dreamland being 8-0 coming into this game here. Like you said, one of only two undefeated teams left. Nightmare, I believe they're calling it Nightmare Pro, there is the only other undefeated team here. So you're seeing the two teams here really rise to the top in this North American tier. But right now, like you said, Shikigami might have something for Dreamland tonight, because we look at these rosters just individually, head to head. It's very, very close here, but it's going to be a really, really fun one to see throughout the night.
Yeah, I am very excited for this matchup, as should, honestly, most people be. This is, I think, a really big defining one for both teams. For Shikigami, even though they have the quality wins, if they can go in here and take this win, or at the very least, push this thing to its absolute limit, I think this puts them in those talks for being one of those contenders you're going to have to discuss when you get towards the end game of the playoffs. And while we are still quite a ways out for that for North America, it's going to become a conversation very quickly for a couple of these teams, because if you get another win or two in here, if you're Dreamland, you are essentially in, and from there, it is about sitting. For Shikigami, they need a couple more of those quality wins to put themselves in that conversation.
Yeah, especially when you look at the overall standings of this, there's only 5 teams with more than 4 losses in North America at the moment. So that means there's 11 other teams that are sitting around that 2-3 loss mark here. So you go from being in that top 5 to being outside the top 10 just barely, with a single loss at any point tonight, especially as the weeks go on and everything starts to level out a little bit more. We'll have a little bit of a better picture with that. But a loss here tonight for Shikigami would put them at 4 losses. Like I said, that could drop them all the way down from where they're sitting right now in that 6th range down to outside that top 10. Granted, maybe a little bit too early to be talking about that, but in my opinion, it's never too early to start talking about just records and everything, considering how competitive this North American region is right now, or North American Masters tier is right now, especially once you get past the top, those 2 undefeated teams.
Yeah, no, 100%. There are a lot of teams that are be fighting for that position. I feel very confident about a lot of these teams. And ultimately, obviously with the 2 undefeated teams left with Nightmare Pro and Dreamland, it is going to become a question of who can take them down. Because, like we were saying before, we haven't had an undefeated team in Faceit League for North America since Season 1. Some of the best teams we have seen come through here have taken losses. And when you play 15 games, that's going to happen in some of these situations. You're not going to be at 110% every single game. And you're going to find teams that, hey, just you don't match into very well. This could end up being a situation right here, because these players, I mean, trust me, they are very familiar with each other. You look back at this Midoriya and Dreamland squads from the past, they have definitely played each other a multitude of times. They know each other well. And in this situation where, I mean, these two teams have just stacks upon stacks of talent. Not even mentioning who's sitting down in the substitutes right now. You have Hutch and Seafel down there, Talisman and Kiwi, Tread. There are amazing players that they have so much depth that both teams have essentially plenty to work with, and there should never really be a situation where it's like, oh, we can't play this. You will find a way, and you have the people to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a lot, especially in South America, where teams that have that depth really do end up finding their way towards the top here. And you're seeing that a lot with the top teams here in North America as well. Those teams that have those subs going to be able to make better picks, better compositions as well, because they have that little bit of flexibility here. But hey, heading into our first map of the night here momentarily, it will be Nepal. We do know what our two bans are. We're not going to be seeing Mei, and we're not going to be seeing Kiri come out here. So no tank taken off the table just yet, Hunter. I feel like that's kind of been a little bit of a trend here for me and you when covering North America, that the tank role is normally the role that you'd see get no bans, which is a surprising thing, but Mei being banned out here, very interesting. Maybe it's a protection ban, but you go to a map like Nepal, I mean, you have to kind of look at the points individually. I think only Village, I think Mei finds the best value. Yeah, that's not saying that she doesn't find any value on the other two sub maps, but Village definitely, I think, does lend itself to very much Mei being a dominant problem. Kiriko, on the other hand, it falls in that category of very safe ban. It's that same kind of ban idea with Lucio and probably Juno here and there. Just very safe ban, get rid of a strong support right out the gate. Probably going to be a little bit of a double-edged sword for both teams here, but they want to make sure that Kiri is not going to be on the playing field. Yep,
we see some teams that honestly are more comfortable with the Baptiste at times, or heck, just have a support player that is just at an elite level with that Baptiste. We've seen this on a couple teams throughout the season already. We'll see if this is the instance right here. Alex, who we don't get to see a ton of Alex before. Obviously, everyone else on that team very familiar with, have been core members of the squad for quite some time. Talisman not going to be on the assistance. Alex going to get things started. And at least for the moment, nothing really surprising between these two squads. We've seen Hero and Dion come out on that Sigma before. As to whether or not Manually and Cape are going to stick with the Bastion is to be said. But to be fair, Bastion has had a bit of a resurgence. As of late, it's become a little bit more common than it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, Bastion's no longer just like this niche pick or this pick that you would normally associate with just throwing. Bastion has become a very scary hero to deal with because of how much damage they can put out. And just because, honestly, I mean, the grenade, I feel like does a lot more sneaky damage here. But look at this, coming out of the gate, Hunter. I don't think you expect to see a mirror match here as both teams try to fight near the elephant statue. As Hero maybe getting a little bit too far, but Zach ordering with that level 3 beam could be very scary here for a moment.
Yeah, and you're going to see a struggle from Hero and from Dion. If you're going to see Dion end up getting burned through, Hero getting incredibly low is going to be able to get cared for, so first fight will be set up in place here for Shikigami to take over. And as I was saying, this is going to come down to Hero and Dion managing these cooldowns perfectly good. If not, you are going to get burnt down by the Sigma and that from the Symmetra, the Bastion.
Yeah, and we saw it right there. Zach got up that level 3 beam, and that shield there for Dion was basically melted right away. Manually tried to get back into that fight a little bit with the Bastion, but the Bastion was not able to do enough there. It really comes down to, like you said, maintaining that shield, monitoring here. Dion, though, has the front line here a little bit, but they're noticing that Zach's a little bit further back here, so they don't have to worry about the Sim just yet. There's TP into the back line.
Yeah, trying to find something to do here, but for the time being, it is still a little bit of a stalemate. The Hero in deep, and we're trying to go past the expended, as well as the Amplification Matrix is going to cause Manually to be deleted on the scene. We're still trading a little bit back and forth, though. I think with Dion going down, though, this one should be done in just the case. Goes in with the artillery strike just to finish things off. It's going to work out brilliantly. This poor Graveyard has to hit the reset button.
And again, this is a great start. This is honestly what you're looking for here if you are Shiki here. You're getting everything to kind of go your way at the moment, and you're really making it a big problem here for, actually, my bad, this is Shiki. I'm getting everything mixed up here. This is how you want to get this thing off. You have this mirror match, you're playing it right into your hands here, and you're just playing corners great, but now you have to deal with ultimates coming out from the other side!
Oh, there's nothing you can do about that. Done and dusted. Just at his lead, and it's only the one ultimate as well, which means they have ult advantage. They're going to have 4 going into this next fight. It really is their choice as to how they want to approach this fight in terms of aggressiveness.
Yeah, I mean, they can play very safe here. They have Photon Barrier up. Zach's not that far away from it and does have it right now, but we'll have beat a little bit sooner. However, this could be a very heavy ult fight here. I could see it coming out where basically you have 4 ultimates come out from each side. You could be seeing 8 ultimates come out here if this fight goes completely long, but you already start to see Shiki trying to get set up here, trying to find that opening pick, and it almost looks like they're able to find Manly, but I love the flux.
Yeah, it's a ton of bodies in there. Metallica is going to keep everybody up, though. You see that all-out aggression from Nero. Eventually going to see that whole direction up from both sides. Hero surviving mortality field there, but it's only going to be a temporary reprieve. But bodies are still falling back and forth. Dion mainly both getting low. Unfortunately, he's just not going to be able to finish this one up. They're going to be taken out. Will not get anything for their troubles as Shikigami going to have to hit the reset button. His poor Cave. A little bit of staggering.
They tried their best there, but 6 ultimates came out on that fight. Basically the same ultimate from each side there. Flux, Beat, and Photon barriers. I mean, that's kind of what I expect to see. Yeah, you still have the artilleries coming out here from both your Bastion, but I mean, other than maybe trying to find one pick, I think it's very difficult to actually do anything with that other than just separate and try to split up the team. And that might be what each teammate or teams are trying to do here, but you have amateurs as well as your Shiki try to rotate the map here.
Yep, quick rotation. Gonna see if it's gonna work out or not. Amplification making it on both sides. Currently crisscrossed right now, but haven't done anything quite yet. Cave does still have the artillery as an investment. He is going to go and pull the trigger. He's going to try to at least get some cooldowns out. He wants to find him, but Cave gets caught out while using it with 90% on the board. Advantage is being taken away. And Hero, last one to touch, last one to go down. First round going to be taken away here by Dreamland. And again, they didn't start particularly strong, but the moment they took a hold of that point, they refused to let go.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say the exact same thing. I mean, it was a really rough start there for Dreamland. And honestly, it really took them just getting one fight to go their way to really start have everything kind of start falling their direction. And I have to love how Manually actually used that artillery there at the end. Cave really only focused it on Dion. Manually just said, I'm just going to focus on Cave. That's a lot of burst damage, a lot of high and fast-paced damage that comes out from the Bastion. Getting rid of that, especially in that fight right there, was so important for Dreamland to be able to actually clean that one up pretty easily there. And I mean, yeah, Zach can really do a lot on the sim. Same thing with Alex, but really, you did not see that. You did not see that very often. Outside of that first fight where Zach was really finding a lot of value on that sim, I saw level 3 being pretty often from them, but great job by the supports there for Dreamland and really everyone alive. And now you see both teams try to fight up here. Have to vary up those Lucios here. They're always looking for those group kills.
Yeah, we witnessed that Ewan game, by the way. We 100% saw that chaos go down. But we'll see what the case is going to be. Aggression around the corner, Manually trying to burn through some great ones available for Hero, but they're all forced into a very uncookable area. And if I'm Menwise, I am salivating to get in there and trying to move somebody. Doesn't work out though. He's going to be able to hang alive at point. Well opened up. No one can really get over towards the point. TP has already been used, so this is going to be a free take for Dreamland. And Shikigami are in worst case scenario right now. Is yeah, they're going to get cleaned up.
I mean, right now you're just starting to see Dreamland. It felt like they needed a fight or two to really get into this competition here. While Shikigami, on the other hand, had a better grasp on it at first, but now that Dreamland's kind of calmed down a little bit, you're seeing them play a lot smarter here with the SimTPs, playing a lot safer as well. And now if you're Shiki, what do you need to do? You need to figure out something here. Yeah, a pick would always be a great thing, but honestly, you have to make sure it's a high-value target. You have to get rid of, honestly, someone like Alex, someone like Manually. You can deal with supports. You can deal with Dion on this tank, but those two DPS heroes, damage fast coming out from the Flux, that's huge.
Yeah, Mortalico, though, isn't going to stick to the ground, so unfortunately, Seabar and Manually go down as a result. And you might be able to get Manually on the way out, but it's not going to matter a whole lot. And now this is Dreamland just trucking on forward, and he still have 4 ultimates, by the way.
And that's another thing. Dreamland's been doing great so far this map, just using their ults really smart. Remember, they won that first fight on the last point with only using the Ant Matrix. They put themselves into a good spot right after that. One ultimate that fight there. However, you can say the same thing right now because Shiki hasn't yet used one. They're going to have a full house coming up here, but Dreamland will have everything at their disposal outside of Flux as a response.
Yeah, Punch's going to come through at 68% here. Flux come through. Zach doesn't have an escape route, unfortunately, so now, and he's just going to burn everybody away. Manually's gotten rid of 2. Cave may be able to find somebody. Manually's already gotten rid of 3 at this point. Make it a 4th one, and just not get the ace. Graveyard takes away, but despite all that, 3 ultimates put in, and only 15 to go for it.
I mean, hey, you'll take that 15% right there because it really, if not, you'd be rushing into this final fight right here. But right now, look at what we're seeing here from Dreamland. They can play aggressively here because they have that time back. They have the percent on their side. And honestly, Shiki taking this fight without kind of rushing the point, it's just playing right into Dreamland's hands.
And they're just going to get toppled down one at a time. Triple is alive, though. Does have the feet ready to go. So Touch is very realistic in the situation. Yeah, here comes that aggression. Accretion not going to do a whole lot. They're going to be able to get the overtime touch activated right here. Alex, sitting on 1 health, is going to go down. So that aggression, yeah, doesn't work out all that well. Going to flip over, but still people are going down. So this is not done yet.
It is not done yet right here, and especially with NY fighting Zach right there. Dreamland should have a great opportunity to come back in here really quickly and take the point, but Gabe finding that one pick might open up a lot here now for Shiki, but you need to get someone back to point. You cannot give this point up for free.
Cannot, and it's going to be close. Flux of use upon engagement, though, because the point momentarily going to see a little bit of struggle. The triplet has gone down, first and foremost, and it's down to Hero, who is 100% being the hero right now. He's already got first one. Flux is available in Graveyard, is going to get singled out here. Mortality Field is there to be able to keep them alive, though, so now it's just Hero in a really awkward situation, surrounded by both of these supports. He's going to have to make a dive over to the point. Unfortunately, the rest of the team is falling one after another. Triplet does get the boot, but I feel like this is all going to be a temporary reprieve for the inevitability as Hero is back. Going to try to push them away. Unfortunately, Dex, yeah, this really feels like it's going to be the beginning of the end.
It is right here. Zach, though, finding one. Zach does have a free beam right now, and it looks like they might actually not. No, they're not going to be able to get the touch.
Oh my
here.
god!
Oh, nice boot. Triplet comes in, but Graveyard finds Zach right back. No flip just yet. Graveyard having themselves a game here. We saw him get 4, we saw him get 2 right there to end it. And Dreamland takes our first map of the night. Excellent performance by them there throughout the map. Shigi had a chance there at the end, but we were in that spot where you were calling it right there. The beginning of the end, that kind of weird, awkward time where everyone was just trying to get those last second touches, and you were really hoping that those symmetric kills coming out there were going to be able to flip something there, but that just was not the case. Dreamland, after, I mean, we can say it here, a little bit of a sluggish start on that first point, really came alive there and shut down Shikigami here on that mirror match. I don't necessarily know what Shikigami could have done in that first map other than maybe make some swaps, but you gotta tell both those teams, they wanted to run that mirror there, but we saw there a lot more from Dreamland. They were always willing to use the TPs to rotate the map. It always ended up working out for them. Shikigami was 1 or 2 seconds behind, really putting them in a spot where they really couldn't rotate it because they would just be rotating right back into them, giving Dreamland the advantage yet again.
Yeah, 100%. And when you go into a map where you have this mirror composition, this is where the ban phase gets a little bit weird right here. It's a situation where it's like, hey, do we think we can win this on our own map selection? Or hey, maybe we need to try to get rid of something here and kind of make it our own style a little bit more, try to give us some form of advantage. I could realistically see it going either way. For the time being, we do see Shikigami bring it over towards King's Row. Their ban, though, is what's going to make this very interesting. So, Dex, do you target the... Well, never mind. The question... I'll still ask the question. Do you target the composition, or do you ban something else and double down?
Yeah, so do you target the composition or do you reactionary ban? And I think we got a little bit of a reactionary ban here. Or, I mean, Hunter, me and you might just be a little bit out of the loop here. Bastion was the ban coming out there from Shiki. Bastion might be something that we're going to start seeing a little bit more here. Again, like you said, in a really good spot right now. The weakest part about Bastion, probably just the ultimate at this point. I mean, with him getting the size reduction about, what was that, 2-3 seasons ago, you start to see Bastion just pop up a little bit more. Again, a lot of damage. You can never really, I don't think Bastion's necessarily a bad pick anymore, like I kind of said. But outside of that, the second ban coming in here, it's going to be Zarya. Especially going into this map, Zarya has been really strong in this past couple seasons and in the past couple weeks as well. So getting rid of her here makes a lot of sense. That still leaves a lot of good brawl opportunities, or we could just see the Sigma again. Because, I mean, outside the Bastion coming in, you could still just kind of play what you were playing last map, even with the Sim. Just, you know, swap out the Bastion with maybe a hit scan.
Yeah, you definitely could. And with that being the case, Alex has been swapped out. Talisman has come in. Remember, Alex was primarily playing the Symmetra throughout most of that engagement. We'll see how much it ends up changing things up. I think with it being King's Row, I think you're focused much less on the Symmetra. I think there's still some level of utility, but I think this is where you see a reasonable swap up come through. But either way, I like the fact that they're willing to change things up, willing to make this ban. See what happens as we're getting ready to head into King's Row. And as we get into this one, it looks like, yeah, Shikigami is going to be attacking first.
Yeah, and again, I think that's always the smart thing to do if you're picking what side you start on here, especially for Dreamland. Pick defense. You know what you have to do in that round 2, whether or not you have to complete the map or just get to a certain point. I think that's the right thing to do here. But now we'll get to see what these teams are thinking of. And Sigma still being the go here. I mean, Hunter, we've talked about it in the past. Sigma's never necessarily been out of the meta. They've been fringe before, but they still have their places to be used. Sigma right now might be one of the more meta tanks, which is a weird thing to be saying because I don't think since what, maybe season 10, that Sigma was actually like the main tank, the strongest tank in the game. I think we're starting to see that a little bit more here. But outside of that, it looks like we're seeing Mei come back in here. Remember, Mei was banned out map 1. Kiri was also banned out map 1, not seeing them. And like I kind of said, without that bash in there, you get just filled in with the hit scan. Talisman coming out on that Mei. And it looks like Zach gonna be sticking with the Sim here, and maybe just for a moment though, but I could still see the Sim finding a lot of value here.
Yeah, it definitely can. They're going to keep you up to the top right area, take it over. I imagine are probably going to speed and come over to the high ground over there, but no. They just decided to drop anyway, be able to avoid the statue entirely, and now they're going to take a pretty good position overall. They have the high ground taken over, but Triplet going down is going to stop any course momentum. Next food has been taken away, so now everybody's got to get out, make the reset button. You get a nice rock on the Seaborn. That does kind of connect, will result in the finish, but manually does die on the way out, so if you reset here, you could re-engage pretty quick.
Yeah, that was one thing I didn't get to talk about in between maps, was the fact that Triplet was the player who died the most map 1, especially with them playing Lucio here. It really does hinder a lot of the stuff that Shiki wants to do with this competition. They want to play fast. Yeah, they have the Sim right there to be able to TP around, but still you want to be able to kind of push the pressure a little bit here outside of the Sim. And you already see him trying to get towards point here, almost a tick before you see Dreamland just engage on the point.
Yeah. Almost ready to go through, and ultimates are going to start becoming a factor very quickly. Hero is the closest right now, about 75% to having that flux ready, which could shut this down, but Graveyard is right around the corner from this Ant Matrix, and I don't know if you're quite ready for this Ant Matrix in this situation. I think Graveyard's going to be very quick to pop this around the corner in a moment's time here, but unfortunately, they're kind of just getting peltered out. They can't really peek their head out anywhere.
You lose Manly right there, but Graveyard gonna actually invest into this, and they find one. The flux comes out, but it feels like maybe this ultimate could have been held on to for a brief moment here, but the fight's still going on, so that still might be up for debate.
I mean, yeah, this is still back and forth. Talisman has gotten rid of another hero, hanging around, needs a little bit of care as while Talisman is gone. Dion is a bit surrounded right now, is trying to mine their space away from Zach, who's low, and unfortunately the finish will not come through, so half-time's been expended, and now rough situation.
Yeah, again, some weird ultimates being used there. I think the Ant Matrix and the Flux were kind of just a little bit just mistimed, I think, for both teams. But if you're Shikigami, you come out on the bad side of it. You did not get that first point right there, and you're about to walk into a lot of ultimates. Talisman also used the Blizzard in that fight, and I don't think it really found anyone. That was just a very much of a hectic fight. The Flux, though, coming out from Dion, will find one.
Yeah, it's going to force out the, against the beat out this situation. There's still quite a bit of much to invest, manually getting low. He's surviving momentarily, but eventually Cave is going to find the finish that you're hoping for. Now, the opening is there, and Talisman being taken out of the equation. You see this one getting done and dusted. A little bit more stall, but with about 3.5 minutes on the clock here, you are going to see Shikigami take over. And the bright side is, most of the players not getting the good spawns, but losing Archway, at least momentarily, is free to them.
Yeah, so Shikigami is going to probably leave one person on the cart, and they're going to start pushing up here. We see this all the time, but look at that. Zach getting off the Sim, going over to the main now. So both these teams kind of showing their hands here. They like to just play the mirror a lot throughout this series already. Now you see another complete mirror here. I honestly thought the Sim there was doing really good, but Street Phase, maybe not the best phase here for Symmetra, especially on the attacking side, but I still think there's a couple good TP spots for right now. Oh, what a nice ice wall there.
Yeah, but separation is going to be prolonged. Seaborn is going to use that Matrix. We'll be able to get Hero back up to full health. But manually still has an ability to let things move any moment here, and it's going to let it go. Triplet head taken off, and now here comes that all-out aggression from manually that we've seen so many times in the past. Helps get rid of another one on the way out. Big cleanup comes through from the side of manually.
I'm gonna be honest, that was really unfortunate for Hero. Zach's ice block blocked them from getting out of that hallway. So they were pretty much between their own teammate, who was trying to make sure they kept themselves alive, and certain death, and they ended up finding death there. But I mean, you look at the ultimates here for each side. Flux, Ant Matrix, Blizzard gonna be ready here for Dreamland. They're in a really good spot, considering the only thing that Shiki's gonna have going into this engagement is just the Flux, and that's something that is very easily counterable here for this Dreamland team. If you're Shiki, you really just need to find some opening here, or just try to bait out some ultimates, because yeah, Zach is building up to the Blizzard here pretty quickly, but that's not going to win you a fight on its own. The Flux, though, can come out here from Hero.
Yeah, and Intelligent waits on their Icicle, and unfortunately, it doesn't work out very well. Now Nenwai's down.
Oh, the Blizzard gets canceled!
Wait, it did, you're right! Oh my god, Zach. Poor Zach. They're going to win this fight, but that could have made a world of a difference on this next fight if that was still there.
It could have made a world of difference, and now if you're Shiki, you actually have to press the pressure right now. You cannot necessarily sit back because you know what Dreamland has. They have that Blizzard, they have that Flux. You're thinking that maybe Nenwai might be close to their own beat here as well, but you can see them, they're not that close to it. You have an advantage here, but you need to press the gas there a little bit. The fact that you've sat back a little bit and allowed Dreamland to come back, this one might be your downfall.
Yeah, you see a bit of separation here. Telsman is going to let that freeze loose. It's all thrown on to Hero. Hero doesn't have carrier. Actually, Zach gets caught out as well. Wall comes out just in time to keep them going, but I think this one is still pretty done. And Dusty Telsman is going to make sure of such right there as, again, you're getting people on the way out, slowly trying to build back up as you see a little bit of backtapping from Triplet. But Triplet does manage to get up towards that beat, and now double support ultimates online.
Yeah, I mean, that's the saving grace here now for Shiki. You will have both your support ults, but outside of that, you might not be able to get anything else this entire fight here, this entire round. You look at the other side, you're going to have double support ultimates. At some point, Manly will also be able to have their overclock. So they're in a good spot right now, especially with them playing a little bit up here, because they can always fall back like what they're doing right now. But honestly, again, this is a moment where if you're Shiki, you kind of have to press that gas right now. You have to press the pressure, because you already see Nenwai, Manly, Graveyard, you gotta have their ultimates ready to go here in a mere moment. You need to go a little bit faster. Now you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yep, be defended to make sure Hero stays up. Seaborn gonna try to stay in this one. Double Matrix being used as well. Seaborn has been thrown away and no one gets to the card. Dude, come on. That. Listen.
Like everything. No, like.
Initiating match.
Again, that's not the worst one we've seen. We have seen some bad ones, but that is up there.
That is
it's not like everyone wasn't. Yeah, it very much is, because we've been seeing it a lot, especially this map, where the Flux has been coming out there to really just negate the Amp Matrix from the other side. Shiki's using the Flux just to cancel out the Amp Matrix. We saw it on the first point. We saw it there, right there. And it's the reason why no one was touching the card. Yeah, there's some pressure coming out there from the backline for Dreamland, but you could have dealt with it. You could have pushed up a little bit more. You were kind of in a spot where you don't want to necessarily just be in that tight corridor of the streets. You want to be kind of in that opening and a little bit of a more open area of where the cart was. So again, some questionable plays coming out there from Shiki, but now you need to kind of regroup yourself here, because not getting that second point is almost a death sentence here, especially if you give up first point very quickly.
Yeah, that's really rough, and obviously we'll see how much it ends up biting them in the situation. Obviously, having the full hold, it's not impossible. Dion, maybe we'll see them stuck in the moment a little too much, and maybe Shikigami will catch them napping. But we'll find out momentarily, as not really any swaps coming through here. We'll see what they're going to be able to accomplish. Graveyard, they're doing great things all season for as long as I've known them, honestly, in the support category. Let's see if they continue making the difference.
This is a very interesting kind of play coming out here from Shiki. You see Hero, the only one on the point. Normally, I mean, you normally don't just see the tanks alone by themselves, but Cave fighting Nenwai out was a huge pick, and now Shiki, ooh, that's a costly one here.
That is a really rough person to lose at this point. Nenwai is so desperate to get that. He had to make the swap over to the Moira to get there faster. By the way, Nenwai was just in the enemy team, by the way. Somehow stayed alive. I don't know how that happened, but either way, first pick has come through essentially for free. I know you're kind of waiting to get everybody back to this point. Leon's going to get the second one. Perfect rock over onto Hero, but Cade gets a nice finish right there. So now the second pick still nearly coming through. This is such an awkward position to be in right now, and you're seeing everybody kind of just fall apart at the seams. And this first point is going to get capped inevitably. All you do is just hold on to the point one by one.
Yeah, I felt like it was just a little bit of a miss. Again, we've seen some weird plays come out from both these teams. But Shiki, I feel like, has been giving us some just weird plays throughout this series. And granted, we're only a map and a half in. They rotated the map there. I understand why they want to try to get Nenway as they came out of spawn, but it just didn't help them. And now Hero got those forward spawns. They're on their own. The fact that you're not seeing Dreamland try to punch that a little bit more is a little bit surprising here. But Shiki, they now need to kind of lock in here. They have over 4.5 minutes here on the second point to not even give it up. It's a very hard, I mean, it's a very hard or easy thing to do, but you just need to get something going your way. Shiki hasn't been able to keep momentum on their side whenever they get going here, but Flux coming out here early almost gets rocked out.
Yeah, he's going to get a ton of members out of it, though. Unfortunately, no one going down quite yet, and now you're locked in a room with another Flux. This is devastating. Dion going to get rid of 2 already, finds the perfect rock. Going to try to get the hat trick in this fight, but Tail's been more than happy to take it away. And with that, I mean, now you're going up against 4 ults, and this is going to take a lot.
And you have ults of your own there. The Blizzard didn't get canceled out. Actually, did find one there for Zach, but you would love to have it in this situation because, like you said, Dreamland get to have 4 ultimates here, and look what Dreamland's doing here. They're pushing up. They're trying to take that space, make it a little bit easier here for them, make it a little bit more desperation here for Shiki. Nice ice wall and amateur coming out there.
Now he's going to go all in. Freeze isn't being used. Hero cut out. Beat being expended, and yeah, that's going to clean things up. And that is a dominant match 5 over scene 1. And still 3.5 minutes on the clock. They cap it away, and Dreamland moves over to match point, hoping to keep that undefeated streak alive.
Again, it goes back to kind of what I was talking about there. We've just seen Shiki make some weird plays throughout this series so far. And this last round right there, I think, was a little bit more of just the unfortunate side of it as well. You lose Seaborn in that first fight there on the first point, and it kind of flipped the entire mindset there for Shiki, where they said, okay, we're gonna rotate around because we were able to get an NY. We'll maybe try to spawn camp them, but just ended up working out because you gave Dreamland that prime real estate of that high ground, all those angles, and you put yourself into a spot where you're either gonna be in an open area, or if you rotated through the hotel lobby, in another wide open area for Dreamland to really be able to punish you on there. I mean, I understand that situation came up right there, and that was probably the best thing you could have done, but it just seems like Shiki, one slight mistake here or there, they haven't been able to get over that quickly here. Dreamland, on the other hand, they've been able to capitalize on those mistakes that Shiki has been giving them. And right now, honestly, if you're Shiki, especially at that tank line with Hero, who I think honestly has been having a good series so far, the fluxes have been something that have a little bit to be desired there, because like I said, they've either been used to cancel out an amp matrix, or what we saw in that last time we used it, or they used it there in that final round, it seemed like they were just desperately trying to find 1 or 2 picks, and which did not happen.
Yeah, it didn't, and you obviously, it goes without saying, you need to be able to pull that off in those situations right there, because the fluxes really felt back and forth, but the situation, or I should more say the difference, was when you have someone like Dion pulling it off. Dion doesn't rip it straight out the rip. They wait for those opportunities. They are able to get things out like the Immortality Field, or put the Baptiste in a situation where that Immortality Field isn't really going to find its inherent value, where maybe you could take care of the Baptiste while they're still in the air. Because honestly, I know solo ulting is kind of a back and forth thing, but honestly, would I decide to flux a Baptiste if I knew they had ultimate? 100%. If that means we have a better chance of winning that fight, I would do that 9 times out of 10 right there. But it's all about readjustment in the situation. And I think with our next map, and potentially final one, Dex, I think Shikigami is attempting to change up the game entirely with this pick.
I mean, yeah, right now, Dorado is going to be our 3rd potential final map of the night here. Echo is going to be the first band out here. Haven't seen Echo, I believe, at all, but like you said, they're bringing us to a different kind of map here, more known for the dive, but you could still play Brawl, you could still play Poke, so Sigma's still definitely on the table, but dive kind of seems to be the way to go here, at least for the most part, from what we've seen in the past. Diva, Doomfist, Winston, Wrecking Ball, Hazard, potentially you could still see come out here. But Echo being banned out definitely lets you think that they're trying to maybe go towards something like the Diva, like the Winston here, something that where that focusing beam really does do a lot to those heroes. But yeah, Shiki needs to figure something out here. I mean, they've looked like they could take Dreamland here. You go back to the first point on Nepal. They looked like they were going to be able to 100% to zero that right there. But a little bit of a misplay, mispositioning right there. An Ant was coming out from Dreamland, opened it all up for Dreamland, and Dreamland really hasn't looked back from that point there. Shiki, they just need to figure something out here right now, especially with their backs up against the wall.
Yeah, and we'll see how much that response is going to work. They decided to leave the Sigma B, which obviously the Sigma I think still has a lot of inherent value on Dorado, not as much as the other two we've played so far. At the same time, I could 100% see them going down this route. The real question, obviously, is what their ban is going to be in this situation. And I don't think they're in a scenario yet where the ban is inconsequential. I still think there are correct bans in this situation. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you what they are, quite honestly. But you could get rid of the Diva in this situation, pretty much in anticipation. That way you don't have to deal with it. And you can go during the route of the Winston, where if you decide you'll still run something like the Bastion, that Winston's going to get blowed up 99 times out of 100 when they go for that dive. So we'll see what the response is. They've been pretty diligent since that last one, getting rid of the Zarya, where Zarya wasn't probably going to get a ton of use in that composition. But I think Diva here, or some kind of dive tank, would be pretty optimal.
Yeah, because, I mean, we saw Zarya be banned out. Winston actually be banned out here. So kind of lets you know they're maybe trying to force that Diva here a little bit more. You can be mad about it, but I think it's a really smart ban.
It is.
So Winston and Echo being banned out here. I mean, like you kind of mentioned, a little bit of a dive map. Winston still kind of seems to be that kind of go-to dive tank for a lot of teams. Diva, though, still getting a decent amount of playtime as well. So I do expect to see the Diva here. If not, Hazard potentially, but with Echo being banned out, it really does maybe lean into that Diva a little bit more here. But outside of that, doesn't look like any subs coming in, I believe. Actually, no, it looks like Seaful coming in for Shiki here. I think it's a smart move by them. I also believe we are seeing Paladin come in as well for them. Actually, no, they're in. So I think that's the only sub that's coming in.
Yeah, I don't want to try to gaslight here. I promise you. I was going to bring up that I thought they would bring Seaful into this map. I thought they would. We've seen Seaful on this team pretty primarily in the past, honestly, and has been pretty prolific in that dive game. And that's what kind of makes me think we're going to go down the route of that Diva. But remember, there is still a lot of other takes that fall into that dive category. You think of things like that Hazard, which honestly has still gotten a decent amount of play in there, that Ball and Doom that are very specialty, that are still strong in their own rights. There is a lot of room to maneuver here. Diva is the most logical pick, but I think if you're Seaful, you do have options. And what do you know? We'll see how that's 6 or not.
Yeah, well, they're in spawn right now, so they have some time to mess around with us here. But hey, this is a dive map, like you said. And Wrecking Ball, I consider it a dive tank. I consider it, you know, a little bit of a mix of dive and just chaos. But outside that, first time we're seeing Vendetta here. Doesn't necessarily surprise me. I feel like we're starting to see Vendetta actually played a little bit more with these dive compositions to really clean up the opposing teams, especially the opposing backlines. And I like that kind of play style. Manly, though, I feel like me and you haven't seen a lot of the Freya here recently, especially after she was really nerfed to the ground after she came out. We started to see a little bit more. But look at Cabe potentially teasing us with the Hanzo here, maybe just for a sonar arrow than a swap. But Seaful going over to the Hazard instead. Tease us with the ball, tease us with the Doomfist. Over to the Hazard now.
Yeah, I think Seaful maybe perhaps heard me list all those tanks and just wanted me to look really smart. But I like the Hazard. It's going to be able to sustain through a lot right here, but honestly one of the biggest issues is going to be getting through this initial corner, because you have something like the Diva, like the Vendetta, they're going to be really hard to burst through, especially where you have someone like Graveyard who's going to be kind of untouchable on the high ground, all things considered.
Seaful, though, is focusing on the right side, on the right part of the team right here, focusing on the backline. Now they're in a little bit of a rough spot themselves. You're going to have to get a lot of care. But still, Dion's doing a good job just kind of frontlining at the moment, slowing down the car as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, there's so much damage coming out, by the way, and nobody's getting low. They get low for a moment, and then immediately it does not matter. Seaful, though, is in a pretty rough situation. Doesn't get cleansed. We'll be able to stay going, and hey, we're seeing quite a few different characters for the first time today. You talk about that Vendetta and that Freya. So far from in, working out pretty well. Almost that first bolo shot already.
Cave on the fray as well. Still just trying to find their angles right now, but with Dion having that defense matrix, it makes it very difficult here for Cave to maybe find a lot of value. So you have to kind of be focusing on Zach, focusing on Siebel here to be able to take away their attention to allow Cave to find that time to find those shots.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see. The Finning Rush broken up pretty well. Seafull down means this fight is pretty much done and dusted. Cave is going to try to hide away. I think wants to set up for a bolo shot here in the near future. Just has to be very careful of Dion, who's going to help cut them off and just shut things down. And now we're pretty much back in the same situation we were at King's Row just some minutes ago.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Shiki, you just need to find something here. You are coming up to all your ultimates here, but same thing could be said for Dreamland. They did use a Kitsune Rush, which again, first time we're seeing Kiriko here tonight as well. Bola out though on the Talisman. Talisman so far in the backline, you need to find this kill.
Yeah, and the kill, in fact, is found. Let's open up a door here. Shikigami to finally make some level of progress. Manually can be forced to back out here, and everyone gonna start moving forward. Bomb is gonna be thrown out here, and Seaboard's not even looking, gets taken out. Bolo shot comes through. This is not a fun way to lose a fight. Let me tell you that right here. They're gonna get a little bit more progress, but still, that is gonna stem the bleeding big time.
But you're getting these trades out at the end here. You're actually going to be able to get this cart moving here. And look at how much Dreamland invested in that fight. The only thing that Shiki used was the Bola shot of their own. So they're in a really good spot right now, rotating back into a good spot here. They're going to have a lot of momentum going their way, but they need to be able to find something here. The beat, though, I think has to come out first here from Shiki to allow them to play aggressively.
Yep, and it's going to be the beat from Dreamland instead, and triplet gets go! Yes! Can't do this! First there's an Ajax, now there's an Ajax, and now this is gonna happen. Seafull's hanging around, and he's gonna start cleaning up bodies. We'll eventually get the cap, so it's not too consequential, but man, that's scary.
The Ajax being a very clever decoy right there, apparently. And look, you're already seeing Dion making the swap here. Seafull maybe being a little bit too much of a problem on the hazard. Probably being Zach, being someone who can just do damage to D.Va no matter what. They're going now over to the Zarya, where I like this swap here, especially as we go on throughout Dorado. I feel like it's a little bit more of a brawl map. Yeah, point 2 still very much diveable, but you like to have the Zarya here. A lot of pressure can come from it, especially with the bubbles. It allows someone like Talisman to play as aggressively as they want, especially Nenwai as well, as they've been starting to pop up in the backline a little bit.
Yeah, down 4 comes through. Not going to really find any good recipients, unfortunately, but right, that cart is still moving forward, and Dion can't really go down to contest it. Talisman's the only person that can really do so in any sort of reliable way, so eventually Dion is going to have just full commit with the squad and jump down. But to be fair, there's not any good time to do that unless you're willing to invest.
Speaking of investment,
yeah, manually, pretty much deleted on the spot. Zach able to find a nice finish. Dion is still hanging around, though, trying to make this go a little back and forth. Seafull going down would steal a kill, and yeah, that it will. 2 minutes left on the clock. And while there's nothing available, in the next fight rotation after this one, you are going to see a lot of ultimates reasonably available here for Shikigami.
yeah, and honestly, you could only say that Shikigami is at this far because Dreamland overinvested into a fight on first point, giving Shikigami the opportunity here to really overinvest into that fight. So you're seeing that kind of rotate through now, but again, all that Shikigami really needs is to find that one person out. Talisman, again, is probably the one you're really looking for here because they're playing that Vendetta. You expect him to be forward, but hey, if Cave can find a shot onto someone, open up a lot, it could really go a long way here for the Shiki squad.
100% we'll see what happens here, though. You have that bullet shot, the Suffering Blade available as well. You have plenty of options. Tell them what to find a little something. Triplet clawed out, and the Bolo finds effectiveness as well. Can wipe him away once more, and Dion is going to have that grab ready to go here. And Triplet, close, but not quite there for the team to respond.
I don't think you're going to see Dion use this pretty early here. They might have really hold on to that here for final fight territory, or just around probably that 20-second mark. I think that would be the right opportunity here to use it. But you look at the other side, Shiki, they're going to have Kitsune. We talked about the beat from Triplet. They should be able to build that up in time. Seafull, Zach, and Cave, though, they could build up their ultimates here as well, so you might see a full house coming out here from Shiki, but they need to start going now, or else they're not going to have anything.
Yeah, you see the momentary touch over on the fight from Seafull, who is just going to get forced out, needs to get capped up, and now you're on final fight territory. You're going to have a ton here. You already have quite a lot here. But you could have all 5 momentarily, but you still have to be willing to pull this trigger, make this happen, and Try to sustain through this grab that is still ready for Dion, who's going to hold on to it a little while longer. Smart to do so. Try to find that perfect moment, and sometimes the perfect moment doesn't come, Dex. Sometimes you need to find one or two people and secure the kill.
Now, I think they're just kind of
Oh my
to a rough situation, but everything coming out.
Yeah, Triplet nearly went down again with that, but for the time being, unfortunately, everything's been used, and it's pretty clear the way this fight is trending. Seafull delaying the inevitable, will be taken out, and once again, gonna be stopped just before that second point. Cave gets one on the way out, but that's gonna be dusted right there, and if you're Dreamland, you are loving your win condition right now.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely loving it. It's going right back to King's Row, where it's almost the exact same distance. I feel like you're almost there to that second point, but not close enough. I mean, great defensive round by them. Again, the only thing that they might have done wrong in that entire round was a little bit of an overinvestment on first point, but they were able to correct it on the second point, and they started using their ultimates a little bit more wisely there. Now, if you're Shiki, I mean, you had a rough go coming out of the gate and really benefited from maybe the first mistake we saw all night from Dreamland to get that first point. But you now need to be able to take some momentum away. You want to extend this series because, like we said, records, even at the start of the night, while you don't necessarily have to look at them too early or at this point right now, it's never a bad thing to start thinking about your win-loss record. This would be, I believe, their 4th loss of the season, and that kind of throws them into that wild area of you could be in the top 8, or you could be basically in that bottom 5, which is in some place you really do not want to be. But I mean, right now, Shiki does have a good opportunity here. There's a really good defensive side of the map, especially if we played the choke points. But with Seafull coming back out on the hazard, I think you're going to have to be very, very careful with how aggressive they play into this competition, especially with Zarya on the other side. And if Nenway sticks on this Zen here, Hunter, Seafull might have to make a swap pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it looks like it is going to stick. We'll see how much engineering value is going to get on the Zen. And then why though, just takes a shot, doesn't get anything. Probably going to head back over towards that Lucio. Does so indeed. As, yeah, once again, not a whole lot really changes as Dion attack over on that defense.
I like the D.Va here because it allows them to play that high ground very easily and allows them to kind of follow Seafull around a little bit as well. But Cave getting taken out first. I was just about to say, you really need Cave to step up here. I thought they kind of had a slow, sluggish first round. Not off to a great start here this round.
Yeah, and Dion's going all into the suppression. He's just managing this Matrix extremely well. Of course, everybody back. Constantly, Seafull has pressure being given, and now this first point is already close to being capped out, and you just have to go back in here and make something happen.
You're just trying to find the most valuable target here, or just an open target as well. Seafull already going in, but you need a lot more support right there, as it looks like Zach actually trying to focus on Nenway. Cave, though, picking up some slack here.
Yeah, now third of a meter left until the team gets capped in, and it becomes a very desperate situation. It's already a rather desperate situation as they're going to move up. Hellsman is taken care of, so you get a little something there. You see somebody's just staying on the card, making sure, because, I mean, we saw it almost happen before with the back cap, but this time around, nope. Gonna be forced back out.
I mean, right now, this is, I think, in a great spot here for Shiki because it forces Dreamland to have to really commit into this fight. They can't just hide behind the bridge. They have to commit into this area where Shiki should have every opportunity or every advantage at their disposal here. But again, you're looking at someone like Manly, who's landing a lot of those take aim shots onto Seafull, forcing them to use that block pretty early on. That could really benefit the team, or that could really benefit Dreamland later on in the fight. But the Katsuyori comes out. I love the play here from Dreamland. Just fall back, let that thing fade away, and you put yourself into such a great position.
Yeah, Seafull goes down, though. That's the worst case scenario. Was in too deep. Zach's gonna die trying to go for the pulse bomb, and now they don't have to do anything to get through this, by the way. They will take this essentially for free, with 2 ults being thrown at them. And now all 5 ultimates ready, 80 meters to go, 4 minutes. This is gonna, again, I said earlier, it's gonna take so much to hold this.
The devastating stagger as well right there from Cabe, or onto Cabe. Yeah, I mean, they're going to respawn just the card gets rolling here. But like you said, all 5 ultimates ready here now for Dreamland. Shikigami, they're going to have to figure out some way how to get some of these ultimates out here. They're going to need to have happen what Dreamland did on the first point on defensive side for them, where they maybe overinvested into a fight or two here. But right now, I like what Zach and Seafull are doing, trying to buy some of that space back. But they really need their team to be up there with them. And this is a moment right here. If you're Shiki, you cannot afford to lose someone early, but you're doing just that.
Yeah, full shot invested, and Here's the thrown the other way. Caven managed to get rid of one. Unfortunately, is the desired result. And now Seafull and Zach just going to let themselves go over onto the cart. Zach, yeah, just got to do the exact same here. They're going to set up for maybe one more fight, but Zach is kind of delaying their death potentially. Is going to get way out, and it's just going to get, he's going to get 2v1 here. Zach is not going to get out of here alive.
Zach's not gonna get out there alive, but the fact that they're pulling 2 people away is actually kind of big for them just to allow their team to get back into this fight. But you still look at the ultimate, such a big disparity here right now. I mean, hell, Dion, Nenwai, they can just throw on those ultimates here pretty early and try to end the fight almost instantly, but it's gonna be Graveyard throwing the first one.
Yeah, Pulse Bomb comes out, gets everybody really low. Triplet barely alive, taking care of, and Dion potentially just one little bomb away. Punishing things with natural end. No ultimates available. Zach is going to come out with a Pulse Bomb, but it's just never going to be enough. Bomb for a little bit of celebration here as Zach gets one on the way out. Triplet trying to run back. Unfortunately, they'll fall once again, and Dreamland is going to stay undefeated.
Just another great round here by Dreamland. Like I said, after those first couple struggle fights on point 1 in Nepal, it seemed like Dreamland was just able to settle down into the series, and they never really looked back from it here. I mean, Shiki, they had their opportunities, but like I said, I feel like we saw a little bit more mistakes in their play. They became almost really predictable a lot of times with their ultimates, especially go back to King's Row. Anytime there was an Ant Matrix used by Dreamland, it seemed like there was always a respawn flux, and it felt like Dreamland kind of understood the situation there a lot of the time. And you go over to this last map here on Dorado, like I said, Shiki probably only got as far as they did because of the only mistake we really saw from Dreamland all night, which was a little bit of an overinvestment. I mean, Dreamland is showing us right now why they are one of the only undefeated teams left in this North American Masters region or tier, but maybe just one of the best teams in Masters tier just general. Yeah, you still have Nightmare Pro there, but Dreamland, they have been playing out of their minds here throughout the season right now. And with this win, I believe it puts them up to what, 9-0? I mean, like I said, never too early to start thinking about playoffs. 9-0, you have to feel pretty confident. If you do drop a couple games here, you should be easily able to make it.
Yeah, you should be able to. It's not even a general worry at this point. And they're looking fantastic while they're at it right here. Again, they stumble a little bit at the beginning, but outside of that, they dominate. I think that's fair to say at this junction. It is just these mistakes that Shikigami is making that are being taken advantage of so much. And it is, sometimes it's the big things like the C9, but sometimes it's little things where you just see a little bit too much aggression coming to form. We saw this a little bit where both Hero and Seafull would go in a little too far forward and would get caught out quite a few times. And it happens, you know, you go for that aggression, it doesn't work out, and you end up paying the price. It is the what happens when you go for those high risk plays and try to get that big pick. But still, Shikigami, I think they're still in a relatively good position. It's obviously rough to lose the fourth one right there, but you look ahead at some of the rest of their schedule here coming down towards the tracks. They have 5 games left. They still have teams like In Control, Emote down mid that they should be able to go up against, but you still have Extinction, Amplify, Nightmare on top of that. There are definitely some really tough games in here, but if they can win a majority of those games, there should be no reason why they shouldn't be in that top 10. Or top 8, I should say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think right now, if just based off that schedule there, if you're Shikigami, if you're going to want to make the playoffs, you're going to have to at least beat one of those 3 teams that you name there at the end. It's going to be tough, but you need to kind of show that you could, you know, go toe-to-toe with some of those teams that are kind of sitting around the area where you are right now in the standings and above. Dreamland, though, I mean, hey, only their 9th game of the season, so they still have 6 more. A lot can change in 6 games, as we have seen in the past, especially in this region. We've seen teams that we thought were safe in the playoffs before just kind of collapse in the last couple weeks and either barely scrape by or just fall out at the last moment. But Dreamland right now, like you said, they seem almost unstoppable. They seem like a team that is destined to kind of run the table up until maybe they meet Nightmare Pro, and then that one is going to be a really, really fun matchup to see and to watch. I don't know when they play, but that one should be a fun one. But again, Dreamland just throughout the night, they seem like they understood every competition. They understood how to play every map. And I mean, I'm just looking at the stats for this last map here. Hunter, Shikigami, their DPS line, 22 elims combined. Dreamland, Manually, and Talisman both had 22 elims individually right there. I mean, it kind of does show a little bit more of a dominant kind of play style coming out there from Dreamland. But that was one thing I kind of talked about, the fact that that DPS line for Shiki was kind of quiet at times. While Dreamland, on the other hand, you always saw Manuel, you always saw Talisman getting their names in that kill feed. And I really think Dion on that Zarya really did give Shikigami a lot of problems there that they just weren't ever able to really get past.
Yeah, there was a lot of issues during that situation, but again, I think it says a lot about the Dreamland squad and what they are able to do in these situations and how hard it really is to shut them down. Like, we've known this to be the case for multiple seasons now. This is what they do. I mean, I look back at their things here. Regular season, you have 13 and 12. Season 5, 13 and 12. Season 6, 11 and 4. Now in Season 7, they're 9 and 0. They're looking great. And hey, you did talk about that Nightmare game. That is a week from today if things stand, which with how late we are into the season, it almost undoubtedly will. And that is the Battle of the Undefeated. I'm sure everyone's going to want to see that, and everyone's going to want to broadcast that too. We'll figure things out later for next week, but they have some games like YFP and Extinction Silvermaning as well, so still teams that have the potential to potentially get a leg up on them. But no, I like the way things are trending for both these teams, honestly. It's a rough one for Shikigami today, but I think we could see this team bounce back. They've done it several times in the past. They'll do it again. Before we wrap up, I will say there was a couple more games that happened today that are... Some of them are already done already, and some of them are some of the more expected results. We still have 2 games ongoing right now. Emo Down Mid is up 2-0 on Artemis, and Hivemind is up 2-1 on EU Takeover, which is strange, I will say. Actually, no, they just finished. Emo Down Mid 3-0'd Artemis. That is crazy.
I think Emo Down Mid had a struggle coming out of the gate. We talked about, that's a brand new Emo Down Mid team, not the same core. I think it took them a little bit to kind of gel together here. I think that long break kind of helped them out here. And I mean, that brings them up to 5-3 on the season. That could be a team that really comes into a spot of their own here and starts being like those Emo Down Mid teams that we saw in the past.
Yeah, I'm excited, honestly, if that is a turnaround that we have, because we do see EDM kind of have these moments of they fall off for like 3 weeks and then they pop back like nothing ever happened in the world. They still have a lot of great talent, especially with Cardifan still in that lineup as well. Razor, I believe, is still there. I'm pretty sure Cardifan's still there, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm pretty sure Razor's on that team for a fact. It could be. To be fair, if I'm wrong, if I'm being wrong, I'm historically inaccurate.
Yeah, no, Cardifan's still there, my bad. Yeah, Cardifan's there.
Yeah, Cardifan and Razor's still there. Cool. Awesome. I'm glad to be right once in a while. But no, I'm excited. As things are right now, anyone is still technically a contender. No one is mathematically eliminated. You never know what could happen. Maybe someone like Hivemind or Casa, EU Takeover, are able to bounce up and get back in. We saw this from Shikigami a couple seasons back where they had a big run at the end and got in, but we also saw some teams fall off at the end, like you kind of mentioned before, and missed out on playoffs entirely. It's rough, but we're not going to know a whole lot on like who is truly like fighting for either or until we're like a couple, maybe like a week or 2 in, and then I think we'll have a pretty good idea at that point.
Yeah, no, I'm just one quick thing. There's definitely 3 teams that are not that I think are mathematically out, but yeah, there's a lot of action left to go here. Like, well, I mean, me and you talked about with South America, how a lot of the South American teams are basically wrapping up their seasons Friday or next Monday. We still have a couple weeks of this here. There are some teams that have yet to play that still have half their season left to go here in North America. So a lot of shakiness or a lot of shakeup is going to happen in the standings. And it's going to be really, really fun to watch over these next couple weeks.
Yeah, 100%, especially some of these teams that haven't quite played as many of their games. You look at like a Nightmare, an Extinction, EU Takeover, Katsugi. It's going to be really exciting to see. But of course, not all that can be accomplished in one day. So that is it for tonight in terms of our games. But we have a couple of really good ones going on Friday. We have Cosmos taking on Truck Vlog down in South America. It's the battle of number 2 and number 3 in what could potentially be a seeding competition, or what I think it's going to be. It's going to be a preview for the playoffs between these 2 teams. And then we have a really important game between YFP and Nightmare Academy going down. Both of those teams kind of hanging around near the top right now. They're 7-2 and 6-3 respectively. And a win for either side is going to put them, give them a massive step forward in terms of qualifying for those playoffs. I think they're both playoff teams from what we've seen, quite honestly, but seeding matters a lot more in the situation where it's top 8, and if you can go up against one of those fringe teams right out the gate, that will give you a big advantage going forward.
Oh, absolutely. But we've seen in the past where I think that's kind of backfired on some teams where those fringe teams had to fight to get themselves in there, come in a little bit hotter, and get a little bit of an upset to start everything off.
Yeah, 100%. But hey, like I said, that's all for a different day. We appreciate y'all being out here for this match. A little quicker than what I would have hoped for, but I think at the end of the day, this is Dreamland showing why they're here, why they're still undefeated, and that Nightmare game is going to tell us a lot about this team when we get there and how close they really are to some of these players that, hey, 4 months ago, we're playing in OWCS against some of North America's finest. So we'll see what the case is. Again, we appreciate y'all being here tonight. Again, we got that double feature going on Friday, and everything is kind of just ramping up. Playoffs are going to be happening at the beginning of next month. It's going to be very exciting. But y'all have yourselves a fantastic night. We'll see you next time for some more Faceit League action. Take care.